making 50,000 a year, see, I would still see that person as being out of work because that's a whole half of their income that they don't have, and now they've got to manage somehow. And we've noticing that there's a lot of people that are, I mean, we've talked to a lot of people that's working on 2 jobs, even some of them talking about 3 jobs, which I can't even imagine. But there's a lot of things that's not being measured. I mean, yes, okay, if a person wants to get a job, yes, you can get a job. There is a place where you can get something making $7 an hour, $8 an hour. You can get something for $10 an hour. And that's good for a person that is, you know, just got a rent to take care of and maybe, you know, living in a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom somewhere. But what do you do with, and I think what Prophet Leslie was saying, a lot of your white collars, a lot of your large individuals, like there was a person that was making $150,000 a year. He now is working in Home Depot, making $35,000 a year. He's making over $100,000 a year. That was the best thing he can find in his area. That he could, you know, get back into something until he can get something better. But now it's been about 6 months. He hasn't been able to get anything better. But yet he had to go from his 6-figure income. Now, according to government, they would say he's back to work. But his life, he's definitely going to try to file bankruptcy. He's on the verge of losing his house right now. And here's a person that, you know, if they don't, you know, they're upside down. And, you know, how does he adjust with his children, their whole school situation, the whole lifestyle? But see, we would still have him as working, but in reality, and that's why I think a lot of people are saying that this is, in a way, worse than the Great Depression is, because we're not tracking that. We might be looking at only 10.2% out of work, but how many people had to take a 30 to 40% reduction in salary? That should be, and if we probably weigh the numbers, we're probably in a deeper situation than what was taking place in 1930.
Well, there is a component that gets tracked as well, and that's personal income and personal spending. So personal income has started to trend upward just over the last 2 months. And that's a key metric, because now that takes into account what you're talking about, which is a person making $100,000 a year is now only making $30,000 a year. How much of that is going on? That can be tracked through personal income, because the personal income number, that's going to either increase or decrease depending on the job that gets replaced. So if personal income, if we see that trending upward, then we know that people are, say, replacing a $100,000 job with, you know, a $90,000 job. I mean, it's still a negative number. Personal income is still negative, but it's a little less negative.
But if I was losing a job, if I was losing a job, and if I could, the first thing I would do is buy me a brand new car. That would be the first thing I would do. Because, number one, I can sleep in it if necessary. And number two, it can get me back and forth to work. Wherever I'm going to get a job at that point. Right. That's why when I heard that Ford did a profit, I was not shocked. Right. You know, I said, of course, people are going to get transportation, because they don't know where they're going to be working at. They, you know, especially if you lose a place, you don't know if you have to travel 6 miles out or 60 miles. Right. Okay? Right. If there's only one car in the family, we're going to definitely get 2 cars. It might not be the luxury car that we're used to, but we're going to have 2 good cars that's going to have the warranty on it, so that we don't have to shove out anything else. I'm getting rid of the car that we've had for the last 8 years or 10 years that can have the potential of giving us problems. Right. But on the flip side, you know, there's going to always be money circulating. I mean, I was in the mall today, but I went to the food section. Half of the food section was not only empty, half the stores was closed.
Mm.
And it looked like, you had to look hard to see where you was eating. It looked like they took out the 1,000-watt bulbs and put 60-watt bulbs in the thing. You had less light. The place was empty. There was more action taking place in a funeral parlor
I can believe it.
than at a mall, and
I
the
can believe it.
stores were empty. And I should say the only group you saw, but if you sat there and counted, the people you mainly saw in the mall was like teenagers or young adults. Was the ones that because they don't even know it's a recession.
Right.
Our children are clueless. They don't
Care about the recession.
recession. What's
Doesn't
that?
affect them.
Yeah, I mean, Manasseh was with some bunch of kids, rich kids or something. No, it wasn't Manasseh. It was Mark Victor Hansen, because he was interviewing these children that became millionaires, and he did it through the internet. Mercedes, I'm close. And he sent me a copy of the book, and they said, "What do you think about the recession?" He said, "We don't." He says, "Yeah." See, that's not relative to us. He said, "As far as we're concerned, we're in the internet. So there's a lot of money in the internet."
Wow.
Now, this is the way the youth were thinking. This was
Wow.
over a year ago. He said, "Aren't you concerned?" He says, "No, you're concerned about what? We're in the internet."
Wow.
It just shows you so we may be in an age where it is the end of the brick and mortar. And I know I told you all to read the
Right.
long tail, where before, in the brick and mortar age, we tried to own miles of land. And we wanted to own a mile. We wanted to have acres. And these are our acres. And we were considered rich in property, rich in status because of our acreage. And now the new model in the long tail, which it covers it says you just need to be an inch wide and a mile deep. Stop trying to get your mile above ground. Go deep in your niche. And all you need is an inch.
Right.
And there are riches in niches.
Wow.
And what happens is that now businesses are forced to change their model, because as long as you're carrying the brick and mortar, and this is what you're saying. I mean, you talked about Amazon, Priceline, and a lot of these companies, they don't have to carry a lot of brick and mortar.
Right.
you
Right.
know, like some of your major retail stores
Absolutely.
that are carrying. And then a lot of your malls have been affected, because if the anchor store goes out, it affects the entire real estate of the entire, So, and one other final thing too I want to say, and this is why it's important to have the prophetic in your life, is in the Middle Ages, there came a period where there was no creativity, there was no new music, there was no new sound, there was no inventions. It was like dead, like nothing was. And I was listening to Prophet Leslie very carefully. Since 9/11 in this nation, something has also happened, like in the nation, and I'm not talking about just nation, the world, the spirit in the world, it has lost, it went from a nation of creating innovation to a nation of security. And once you become a place of security, you stop creating. Anytime you start moving into protecting, you cannot create, because you cannot open up the doors to see outside, because you're trying to protect things and keep it in. And you cannot get wealthy until you step out on the edge. Whatever you do, become creative. I believe it was, I forget who it was. I told y'all. They asked him, what did he think about, I think it might have been Stephen King. They asked him, are you concerned about the recession? He says, no. He says, I'm too creative to become broke.
Wow.
Amen. That's
Wow.
fabulous. Amen.
And I dare someone to type in the chat room,